Hello everyone, this is the NLE Ninja, Wes James, and I'm back to bring you another edition of NLE Ninja Effects. I've had a lot going on with teaching, projects, and such, but I finally found time to make tutorials once again. For today's effect, I will show you how to create a DVD box promo inside of Premiere Pro. I have some elements that were created in Photoshop and After Effects that we'll be using for this project. I provided a link for anyone watching to download a zip file and try it out for yourself. I will also be using Final Effects Complete 6 from Boris Effects and Knoll Light Factory from Red Giant Software. Here's a preview of what we'll be learning how to do today. Alright, let's get started. If you haven't already, download the DVD promo toolkit so that you can follow along. Make sure that your sequence is 720p and you have about 6 video tracks in your timeline. Also make sure that the frame rate is set to 29.97. First, let's create our background. Let's go to our project browser, let's go to our DVD promo bin, and let's drag our Stonewall image into the source monitor. Set an endpoint at the beginning of the image and type in +9.29 and hit enter. Set an out point where the playhead is currently at. Now the Stonewall image has a duration of 10 seconds. Place the Stonewall image on track 1. Let's go to the effects browser. Let's go to video effects, scroll down to generate. Let's select circle and apply it to our image. Let's go to the effects control panel. Increase the radius for the circle from its current value to 340. Click on the invert circle checkbox. Twirl down the feather parameter. Increase the feather outer edge from 0 to 440. Change the color to black. Change the blend mode to normal. After you applied the circle effect, let's go to our effects browser. Make sure you're in your video effects folder. Let's scroll up to FEC color correction. Let's select FEC toner and apply it to our image. Let's go to our effects control panel. Let's scroll down. Keep the highlights at white. Change the midtones to a light red, light pink color, and the shadows, keep them at black. For some slight tweaking, change the mix with original to about 25%. After you've done that, let's move on to our DVD box. Go to your project browser, drag the DVD box 3D onto track 5. Go to 4 seconds 26 frames in your timeline. Enable the blade tool. Make a cut where the playhead currently is at. Hit A to enable your selection tool or the default Premiere Pro hotkey. Let's select the other half. Right click and select frame hold. Make sure it's hold on endpoint and hit OK. Let's do a marquee select of our 2 DVD box clips. Let's hit Option C or the default Premiere Pro hotkey to nest items. Right-click on the nested sequence. Let's rename it DVD Box for organizational purposes. And if you want, you can rename it DVD Box in your project browser as well so you don't forget it. Double-click the nested sequence. Let's open our nested sequence by double-clicking it. Let's do the following. Go to the point where the cut is at in your video footage. Let's set a sequence marker so we know where the cut is at. This will be relevant in just a few seconds. Let's hit Ctrl W or click on the X to close our sequence. Go to your effects browser. Make sure you're in the video effects folder. Scroll down to FEC Perspective and select FEC Advanced 3D and apply it to your nested sequence. Set the X position to negative 0.45. Let's press the home key. Move the play at about 10 frames by pressing the hotkey shift right arrow twice. In the effects control panel, make sure the FEC Advanced 3D filter is twirled down. Set a keyframe for Z rotation. Change the value to 360. Move the playhead about 1 second, 20 frames, and set another keyframe with a value of 0. Let's press the home key. Press the hotkey shift right arrow to move the playhead 5 frames forward. Set a keyframe for -5 for the position Z parameter. In your effects control panel, click on the Go to Next keyframe arrow for the Z rotation parameter. Set another keyframe for the position Z from -5 to 0. After you've done that, let's scroll down. Let's turn on the motion blur parameter from off to on. Once we've done that, let's move on to our DVD discs next. Let's go to our source monitor. Let's go to our project browser. Drag in NLE Ninja Disk 1 into the source monitor. Give it a duration of about 5 seconds. Place it on track 4. Let's repeat this process for NLE Ninja Disk 2, but instead place it on track 3. Change the scale on both discs to 32. Select both discs in the timeline and hit the keyboard shortcut Command G to group. Drag the in point of both discs to 4 seconds 25 frames. Make sure both discs are selected again and hit the keyboard shortcut Shift Command G to ungroup. Now you can manipulate them individually. In the timeline, select DVD Disc 1. Twirl down the Collapse or Expand track. Click on the Opacity drop-down parameter, go to Motion, and select Position. On the track panel, go to track 4 and set a keyframe where the playhead's currently at. Hit the keyboard shortcut Shift right arrow 3 times to move the playhead 15 frames. Set another position keyframe on the track panel on track 4. Let's repeat the step by hitting the keyboard shortcut Shift right arrow 3 more times. Let's set another position keyframe where the playhead's at. With the clip selected, go back to the first keyframe. Change the position to 1827 on the X and -206 on the Y. Let's go to the second keyframe. Change the X value to 1048 and the Y value to 12. Let's go to the third keyframe. Change the X value to 549 in the X and the Y value to 235. We've animated the first disc, so now we need to do the same for the second disc. In the timeline, let's expand video track 3. Let's highlight it as well so that we can make changes as necessary. Select make sure you have DVD Disc 2 selected, click on the opacity drop-down menu, go to Motion, and select Position. Let's go to the endpoint of our layer. Let's set a keyframe at the endpoint of DVD Disc 2. Let's press Shift right arrow 3 times to move it 15 frames forward. Set another keyframe for position. Once again, press Shift right arrow 3 times and set another keyframe for position. Let's go back to our first keyframe. Change the position to 1884 on the X and 744 on the Y. Let's go to our second keyframe. Change the X value to 1008 and the Y value to 748. Let's move to the third keyframe. Change the X value to 549 and the Y value to 488. Let's go back to the endpoint of our disk layers. Set a keyframe for rotation at the endpoint and the outpoint of both layers. On both layers, set the second keyframes to 720. Now, we'll have both layers rotating as they come in from out of frame. Let's select both disk layers and hit the keyboard shortcut Option C or the default Premiere Pro hotkey to nest items. Let's rename this nested sequence disks in the timeline as well as the project browser for organizational purposes. Let's add a drop shadow to our nested sequence. Let's go to our effects browser. Let's type in drop shadow. And let's apply it to our nested sequence. Let's change the distance from 5 to 8. We have all our objects in place now. Let's give it a title for its arrival. In the project browser, click on the New Item button. Select Title. Let's name it Available Title. And hit OK. Using the font of your choice, type Available on DVD Tuesday, like so. I have a font called Headline A, which can be downloaded at thefont.com. Use a font of your choice that you feel will be appropriate for your project. Let's increase the tracking to 3 and the leading to 20. Change the fill type to linear gradient. Change the color stops to choice. Let's enable inner strokes by clicking on the Add button. Make sure the type is edge and the fill type is solid. Increase the size to 14 and the solid color to white. Let's enable outer strokes by clicking on the Add button. Let's scroll down. Change the type from edge to depth. Increase the size from 10 to 54. Let's change the angle from 0 to 100%. Let's enable drop shadow. Let's change the angle to 100 degrees. After you've done that, position the text within the title safe boundary on the right side. After that, exit out of the title tool. Go to your timeline. Let's scroll up so we can see the rest of our tracks. Place the available title on track 6. Change the endpoint from the head of the sequence to 5 seconds 25 frames. Let's trim the out point of our available title so that it matches up with the length of our DVD box. Let's go to the effects browser. Let's click the X in the drop shadow. Let's go to video effects. Scroll down to FEC transitions. Select FEC light wipe and apply it to our title. Let's go to our effects control panel. Make sure the animation is set to percentage done. Set a keyframe for percent done at the endpoint with the value of 100%. Move about 25 frames and change the percentage done to 0. Change the center so that it lines up with our title. Let's change the shape from radial to doors. Let's change the orientation from 0 to 90 degrees. Let's bring down our intensity from 1 to 0.3. If you want, you can change the color to taste. Next, let's add a lens flare behind our text. Go to your project browser, select the DVD promo folder, click on the new item button, and select black video. With the video settings showing up, if they match your sequence, hit OK. Let's drag our black video to track 2. Make sure the endpoint is the same as the title as well as the out point. Let's go to the effects browser. Make sure you're in the video effects folder. Let's scroll down to Knoll Light Factory. Let's select Light Factory Easy and apply it to our black video. Let's go to our effects control panel. Click on the Unmult checkbox. Change the flare type from 35mm to Vortex Bright. Let's go to our timeline, and let's drag to where we actually see our timeline in full. Let's change the light source location by going to the effects control panel, and then changing the light source location so it's centered between our title. Let's change the scale from 1 to 0.66. Let's go to our track panel on the timeline. Let's scroll down the Collapse Expand track for video track 2. Let's go to 6 seconds 3 frames in our timeline. Let's set a keyframe for opacity at that point. Let's move to 6 seconds 10 frames. Let's set another keyframe for opacity. Go back to the first keyframe and change the value from its current value, 100, to 0. Now the flare will come on right as our title is coming on as well. We're just about done. All we need to do now is do a slow camera push on all our elements. In your timeline, select all your items by pressing Command A. Hit the keyboard shortcut Option C or the default Premiere Pro hotkey to nest items. Let's move our playhead to 5 seconds 18 frames. Let's select our nested sequence. Let's go to the effects control panel, scroll down the motion parameter, and set a keyframe for scale at the playhead's current position. Move to the sequence out point and change the scale from 100 to 106. Let's press the home key, press the keyboard shortcut Alt left bracket to set the endpoint for the work area. Let's move to about our out point of our sequence and press the Alt right bracket to set the out point of our work area. After you've done that, let's press Option R to render all effects, and I'll be back with you guys in just a second. Alright, and I'm back. After the render, I added some sound effects to spruce it up just a little bit. Let's see what we got. There you go. a DVD, box, and disc animation inside of Premiere Pro. This idea came to me while watching numerous DVD promos and figuring out how it could be done. If you want the After Effects project I used to create the elements, direct message me on either YouTube or Vimeo and I'll get back to you. This tutorial was more of a filler tutorial since my last one, and I've actually been working on this, as well as the next volume of Music Video Effects, Volume 4. I said in the last one that I would do it in Premiere Pro, and it will happen sooner than you think. So be on the lookout for Music Video Effects, Volume 4. It'll be a combination of my favorite effects from all 3 volumes, with some new effects that I'll show exclusively in Premiere Pro. Download a trial of Final Effects Complete 6 from BorisFX.com and Knoll Light Factory from Red Giant Software. Both companies make excellent plugins that can take your projects to the next level. For my Mac subscribers, check out digitalrebellion.com or the App Store and download the app Posthaste. This app is a must-have for all editors who want to organize their projects into folders and hate having to do so by creating individual folders each time. I use this app all the time on a lot of big projects, and I suggest you do the same. Also, Avid recently announced the upcoming release of Media Composer 6. Go to avid.com and check out the videos explaining the new features and additions to this great program. If you're a student and cash is kind of tight, you can purchase the program for $300 and you'll be eligible for 4 years of upgrades. One last note. For my subscribers who use Final Cut Pro 7 and have or have not gone to Final Cut Pro X, I just want to say that I will not be doing any tutorials for Final Cut Pro X in the near future. I've tried the program myself for about 2 to 3 months and watched many training videos on it. Although it had some good pros, the cons of this program just did not meet my workflow demands as a professional. If you could translate the effects I've shown in Final Cut Pro 7 to Final Cut Pro X, more power to you. Otherwise, I kindly ask that any current or future subscribers not ask if my effects can be done in Final Cut Pro X. My opinions of this program are mine and shouldn't be misinterpreted as bashing it. If it gets the job done for you, that's great. Unfortunately, it doesn't do it for me. Well, that's it for this edition of NLE Ninja Effects. Check out my other tutorials for Premiere Pro CS5 as well as Final Cut Pro 7 for your creative needs. Until then, stay creative.